Yo guys, Alex here from Elite Football Conditioning. This video is in response to a Q&A that I did nearly like a couple of weeks ago on my Instagram when I wasn't feeling too good. Hence the reason for not actually posting anything out there with regards to some of the questions and some of the answers before now, due to not being well and being pretty busy. So what I've done, I've just kind of any time I do anything like that, I will respond to messages privately just so people can get quick feedback. So I did do that there and then. There may have been one or two questions that I missed, and I kept kind of tracking back through my stories to see if I could find them, but those gone. And I'm sure they came through because I'm sure I had a notification, but I haven't been able to find anything since. So if you did actually respond to the Q&A and you didn't get an answer back, I apologize. It's just because I haven't seen it or I can't access the message that you sent through. Anyway, without further ado, two key questions. Number one, best way to improve your speed. And then number two, what should semi-pro footballers focus on in the gym in season, being crucial. So I'll tackle number one first and then we'll get stuck into number two. So best way or ways to improve your speed. Now, I don't want to overcomplicate this. If anything, I want to really simplify it. The best way to improve your speed is to actually practice speed. So that might look something as simple as actually sprinting a couple of times a week and focusing purely on sprinting. So not in a games context, because one of the things that's really difficult, especially when you're playing small-sided games, is to actually get up to full speed. It's very rare that it's not very often you'll actually have the space available in that small-sided games context to be able to get up to top speed, especially if you're going to be chopping and changing direction, stopping, starting. It's not going to happen. Really good way to condition your musculature, your movement patterns, your energy systems to being able to tolerate those fast, hard changes of direction, but not directly speed. So if you really want to focus on speed, you need to go and take a look at the people who are the best in the business for speed, and they are your professional sprinters. So if you were to take a chunk of their training and have a look at what that looks like, loads of sprinting at top speed, loads of recovery time in between sprints, loads of jumping, loads of bounding, loads of single leg stuff, and then plenty of time working on drills and movement pattern and coordination that are specific and adaptable, usable for sprinting. And you quite often see this when people come in and they want to be faster and they'll be overextending, they'll be ground striking incorrectly, the posture will be slightly off, either they'll be leaning forward too much or really extending through the lower back, and that's going to lead them to more and more injuries. So the first thing that you've got to correct is the movement patterns and have a look at your specific sprint technique. Get yourself in the right positions and then continuously practice trying to be fast. So if you want to do that, I'd recommend setting something up. Like, let's say this is your first session for actually focusing on sprinting, for example. So go through your warm-up. Make sure you do your warm-up, all right? I don't care who you are or what eccentric isometric exercises you do or what 90-degree joint angles you pause at. Genuinely don't care. Do your warm-up. Get warmed up. Get primed, ready to sprint. And then literally set yourself a distance, 20 to 40 meters. We're not going to go any more than that. Maybe 30 to 40 meters. Then say, right, we're going to hit 6 perfect reps. So we're not going to overcook you. We're just going to hit 6 reps, aiming at top speed through that distance. So that's full speed all the way through past that finish line. Then slow down, relax. Then you're going to have plenty of time in between your reps, and I'm talking 2, 3, maybe even more minutes rest than that. So 2-3 minutes, completely switch off, down regulate, walk around, stay loose. All right, that's all you need to do. That would be a purely specific speed-based session. And then the key to this is to not then go into the gym or utilize any other equipment and things around you to simply fatigue yourself. So when it comes to speed work, it has to be about quality. And I'd recommend video yourself, have a look at your technique, have a look at your positions through your toe off, your strike phase, and then compare yourself to an elite sprinter. Compare yourself to how that actually looks in real time with world-class athletes that have practiced and versed it and got it dialed in. The next way on top of that is to obviously moderate your loading, make sure you're recovering in between sessions. Do it more frequently than you necessarily go and do your gym work. So you might start looking at doing your speed sessions 2, maybe 3 times a week. If you're training, if you're playing, dial down the dosage, bring the dosage down, make sure you're getting the quality reps in. You have to get the reps in to look at making progress in that. So best way to improve your speed is to practice being fast. All right, and actually aim for that. Then you can start to get all fancy, and you can have a look at, right, well, let's say if in your sporting context you've got lots of cuts, lots of changes of direction, literally break that down into, I'm just going to practice accelerating from a 90-degree position for the first 5 to 10 yards and get good at that. Get really snappy at that. Practice that foot placement coming through, the knee drive coming across, and ultimately taking off from those different positions. You might take off from a slightly compromised position. You might be in a half kneeling position. You might be on one leg. You might have just thrown in a little jump and then land and go. So many different ways that you can mix it up and add a bit of variety into your training. So I would literally look to build it in and develop it that way. And again, in addition to that, you can then, I'm going to end up talking about this for like an hour now. I need to be careful, right? So I want to keep this video short, sorry. You can then start to look at like using, I really like using sleds, various weights, heavy weights, even light weights, just practice moving it fast. Perfect. Like the reason for that is because it helps you hit the correct joint angles, helps you get the right joint angles, especially through acceleration into top speed. Parachutes, maybe now and again there'll be like a 0.1% of your training, maybe a 1% of your training every now and again. Like it's just going to slow you down. And I'm talking about, we want to practice being fast. Running against resistance isn't always the best way to do that. It might be useful now and again if you want to try and get a bit more power and a bit more pull through from the ground, but in general you don't need to do it. Now, question number 2, I'm going to move on to this very quickly before I end up being here way too long. What should semi-pro footballers focus on in the gym in season? And the key to that is in the gym, because if anything a footballer should focus on is their work on the pitch. Now, it's quite a difficult question to answer this because there isn't necessarily a blueprint for it. It's a very generalized, like, semi-pro footballer in season. It could be anybody. It could be a goalkeeper, it could be a centre forward. It very much depends on the individual themselves and what they're strong at, where the weaknesses are, what their coach demands of them, any key feedback that they've had that they specifically need to work on. So there might be someone who's, say, carrying a bit of excess weight. You might have to have a conversation with them about, listen, we need to get you lighter to be able to get you quicker, more explosive, and we'll add in, like, you'll become more powerful in that context. You might have another player whose fitness levels are just very, very low. That's going to result in lots more longer and more intense CV-based sessions. I would say if you're going to ask me for a specific template that a semi-pro footballer should work on and a priority in general for semi-pro, so at that level to be able to progress, obviously you have to have the running fitness in there anyway. So you need to be able to run. You've got to be able to run. And you have to be fast. Like, speed is a separator at any level, and similar to my answers for the first question, practice speed, practice being fast. Any training session you do, add in a little bit of speed work at the start. So if you're in the gym as a semi-pro player 2 times a week, you can end up playing games 3 times a week. So you start to run out of time to train and train effectively. The neural primer session that I recommend, very, very good one. Try and get that in on the day before a game, because even if you're already a little bit stiff and sore from playing previously, that's going to help get you back into like prime shape, prime condition, generally feeling better, moving better before you go out and play. Now, every single session you do, I would make sure you do your power and speed work first. So that would be your jumping, your bounding, your sprints, your 10-meter accelerations, your 30-meter flying sprints. They're a really good one that I like, by the way, because you're not hitting your full speed from a dead start. So like the 10-meter sprint's okay because you're not necessarily accelerating all the way through to top speed. You're working power off your first, so like 5 steps. Whereas if you were to run it for 30 meters, you are going to bring yourself fully upright. You're going to be in top speed sprint mode. A little more risky, and like not necessarily always with the space to allow it in the gym. So 10-meter sprints in the gym, or 10-meter accelerations in the gym I really like. If you have got the space available, go through the gears and then hit your top speed. So you're already kind of in a good movement pattern and you're not transitioning from kind of an extreme acceleration angle and forcing it. Once you've done your speed and your plyometric work, I would then go on to focus on some simple strength, some simple general strength. So football is going to deteriorate your body through the season. There are going to be movement patterns and demands placed on you that need correcting, they need ironing out, and we want to be able to help maintain a little bit of balance through the body. So rather than developing biases to one side, over dominance of the anterior chain, so like through the hip flexors, obviously loads of ball striking. We want to kind of bring that and even that out. So things like trap bar deadlifting, front squatting, box squatting, loads of chin ups and body weight pulls, body weight rows. Include those as your simple strength work. You don't need to spend forever on them. And then I would suggest very, very little after that. Very, very little and minimal work with regards to your bodybuilding type stuff, hypertrophy. I would keep it very, very simple on the prehab side of things as well. Obviously, loads of ankle stability, loads of core stability. Copenhagen side planks, for example, they're a really, really useful one to apply on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, get really, really strong through your core. So I would say, if you were to nail me down to kind of 3 key principles. Number 1, work on your speed and your power, your jumps, your sprints, your accelerations, and change of directions. That's, can I allow that as 1? Yeah, I'm going to go for that. That's 1. Number 2, general strength. Number 3, core work. If you get those 3 things into your gym sessions, you're doing a great job. Lean a little bit away from the hypertrophy side of things because it is just going to kind of drain the tank a little bit. So the priority has to be more towards the speed and strength balance, if you like, that kind of continuum. That's the one that we want to be working on. I hope that's given you some useful tips and useful things to work on. I've got to go because I've got another meeting coming up in literally the next couple of minutes. So again, if that has been useful, if you've liked that, if you kind of like this kind of format, then make sure you're watching, keeping an eye out on Instagram for the next time I put out to do a Q&A, and I will take your questions and I'll answer them there and then for you and record another little video just like this. Anyway, I will see you again soon. Take care, train hard, make sure you win.